Morning, Alison Mead from Silicon Bullet today with more bookkeeping tips. It may be a noisy one today because the motorway seems quite loud and the birds are enjoying the fact that it's spring on my dog walk here in Selsey Forest. There's Daisy walking with me, and to stop having to stop the video and stick her back on the lead, I've got her on the extendable one today, so I should be able to talk unencumbered. So today I am aiming my video at people that are wanting to become independent bookkeepers, and they are worrying about what they need to do for money laundering and money laundering checks. If you're a member of the ICB, or if you're being licensed by the AAT, then go to them and they will tell you what you need to do for money laundering checks, as you need to abide by their license, so you need to follow their rules. If you are someone that's like me, that's an independent bookkeeper, I've learnt by experience, and I don't have those more modern qualifications because I've been doing this for an inordinate amount of years. So I am supervised by the HMRC for money laundering, and you really need to have applied for that and got that in place before you take on your first client. But let me tell you some of what you actually practically have to do, because when you register with the HMRC, you do need to do courses to know what anti-money laundering regulations are all about. So I sat a course that was run by Verify, and if you go on the HMRC website, you will also see videos and other information that you can read, but it's kind of very dry and it's hard to know. Well, actually, here I am sat at my desk running a business. What do I actually need to do? So you need to have in place a policy. A policy is basically writing down in plain English what you are actually going to do when you take on a new client. So that is involved kind of putting down in plain English what I'm about to say to you now. So when you take on a new client, you need to do various things about verifying who they are, that they are who they say they are, verifying that the business is who the business says it is, and also verifying that it is a real business with real customers and real people and real money coming through, and it's not just, oh, here we go, helicopter going over as well, just to make it really noisy, and it's not just a front. I don't know about you, my only experience of what money laundering is from watching, the Ozarks or watching Breaking Bad. And it's basically where somebody sets up a business as a front so they can pass large amounts of cash or money through it to clean the money, to make drug money or illegal money into legal money. Even if you watch that gold bullion things on the BBC, that's where I get my idea of what money laundering is. So that's what I'm kind of drawing on when I'm doing this. So you can write your policy as you're going through with your first client and deciding what it is you're actually going to do. So the first thing that I will do is I will look at, if it's a limited company, I will look at the business. I will go and look on Companies House and check they are really registered. I will check that the person instructing me, usually it's the owner or the director, so you will see them listed on there. I might have a little look at them as a person and see how many businesses they've got listed. And I will just want to check that it all tallies what they're saying and matches what they're saying. What you would then need to do is get some kind of proof of address, that the address of the business matches what's on Company House and it matches what they've told you. And it might well be the accountant's address is a registered address, or it might be their trading address. So you can write to an accountant and ask for, evidence, a headed paper, a letter, a bill, or something like that from the accountants, which basically will verify to you that the address that's shown is correct and it does tally with that business. You also need to investigate the individual, the person, and it should be that you investigate every director, whether they are maybe the owner's wife or partner that's a director in name only, and you need to verify that they are who they say they are. Now for that, you want to try and have met them, but in these post-COVID days and working remotely, that's not always the case. You definitely need to keep a copy of photo ID on file, and at the very least have some kind of video Teams meeting where you see them. I've spoken to other bookkeepers now, and I check I get a passport or I get a driving licence from them, and I check every piece of ID that I get. I check every piece of ID that I get on Verify to check that it's a real ID, because I don't know about you, someone gave me a fake passport or a fake driving licence that's got the right name on it, that's got the right contact details, where it all matches what's on company's house with the names and with the driving licence addresses and things like that. I've got no idea whether it's a fake or not, or whether it's a real one. So I tend to use Verify to check whether the actual document is real. I know other people, if they've met the person and they know the person and they're getting the photo ID from them, that they're then photocopying themselves and then returning the ID, then they don't bother checking it on Verify, because to them they've got that level that this is a real person and this is a real thing, and you don't need that extra level of checking that the ID is valid externally. So that's totally up to you. I will also ask for a utility bill for the company premises, and also a personal one for the directors to check the address is correct, or if you get a driving licence, that's got the address on as well. And this is all just checking that the information that they've given you is what they say it is. I do have a little checklist of a risk assessment. So I'm assessing the risk of the client to see how likely they are to be involved in money laundering, or how likely they are to be kosher. And the whole idea is, the lower the risk associated with someone, the less checks you might do on them. The more risky that you think they are, the more checks that you will do. So I keep a record of that risk assessment, and I fill things in with my thoughts, and then what processes I might have followed, what idea I might have gotten and what I might have checked. You might want to also verify that the business is a kosher business as it's advertising itself. So do they have a social media presence where they're advertising their services? Do they have a website? If they are in a regulated business, so I do some bookkeeping for a financial advisor, I went and looked on the independent register. I went and looked at what registrations and things that they have connected with their business as financial advisors, etc. And then I logged on to the website of the independent regulator and checked that they appeared in the list and that I could search for them there. Because that then again gives me a level of confidence that they are a real business and they're not just a front for money laundering. I will also look at things like, say I've already had access to their bookkeeping software and I've already had a look at things. Can you see invoices being raised to clients? Have you maybe visited their offices? You've seen the staff, you've seen them taking calls, you've seen them speaking to people. You might have even seen and met customers of the business. Can you see coming into the bank individual payments from different bank accounts that then go off to the invoices? These are all things that give you confidence that this is a real business with real customers and with real money, so that you can perhaps not have to go so deep in your checks. And the checks is called the due diligence side, and that's why you're making the checks on people. So if somebody just approaches me out of the blue, I've never met them before, I'm never going to meet them because they live remotely and I'm going to be doing their bookkeeping separately, I would do more checks on them than on someone that's local to me, that I can go and visit them, I can meet them, I can see the offices, I can see it's a business. And it's all to do with levels of risk with this risk assessment and this due diligence. You need to also you need to check people and recheck things annually to check that things haven't changed. But also then, when you're in the act of doing the bookkeeping, if you see large chunks of cash being moved around, or transactions being done without associated paperwork, or any evidence as to what it was about, then that is when you would click into action and go and do more investigation, try and get evidence. And if you don't get satisfactory evidence from the business owner that these are kosher business transactions and that they should be there, then that is when you might need to go and report somebody for suspected money laundering. And at that point, that's when I would go onto the HMRC website and look up what the current rules are on what I should do if I suspect somebody of doing money laundering and how I should report it. And if you are doing or reporting things like that, you should not tell the client. You should just report it in the way that you should on the HMRC website, so that they are not forewarned and can shut it all down before anybody comes to investigate them and have a look at it. Now, I'm very lucky that with the clients that I've had, that is something that I've never had to do. And the idea of it, frankly, does terrify me. But this is where, when you're investigating a client and even deciding whether to take them on, if you do these risk assessments and these due diligence checks for any prospective client, if you found somebody that you actually thought could be dodgy, then the idea is you would report anything if you've actually seen anything good enough to report, and then walk away and not have them as a client. You know, you've got to think about your business, your sanity and what you're doing. And if you've got someone that you're particularly worried about, then perhaps they're not the right client for you either. So I have, if you go to siliconbullet.com, you can get in touch with me. I'm Alison Mead, and I do have an example of a policy. I have some spreadsheets already filled out that I use, and documents that I use for doing my risk assessment, with memory joggers and reminders of what I might want to look at. And I've also sort of written out kind of what I do, just in plain English like I've done on this video, so that you can got an idea of where to start. So at the very least, I would say you need to have a list of all your clients. You need to keep a check on ID on everybody. You want to write out, just in plain English in a Word document, your policy of what you have decided that you are going to do and you are going to check when you take somebody new on. And then keep a record of why you think they are the risks that they are. And again, I've got a form that I can fill in with that. And then with your due diligence, what checks you have made. It asks you a few other questions in my thing, like, can you see that they're paying the taxes to the HMRC? You know, if you're not doing their VAT or their payroll, maybe their accountant is. So you might want to get a letter from the accountant that just says to you, yes, we are doing the tax returns, we are doing we are checking over this client, we are looking after them annually. It does say on my forms, if you're just the bookkeeper and somebody's got an accountant, you can ask the accountant to send you a letter that says you can rely on their due diligence. Now, I am finding that really hard to get any accountant to agree to that. They might send me a letter-headed letter that says they're acting on behalf of that client, but I haven't yet found anybody that's willing to put on pen and paper to me to say that I can rely on their due diligence, which means I don't need to do any of the checks. And to be honest, once you've done it, it's not that difficult. You need to set aside annually to renew it. You need to keep an eye on when people's ID runs out and get copies of their new ID. When their passport runs out, they get a new one. When their driving licence runs out, and get a new one. You do need to replace and have on file the new items. But it's not that difficult. And I now also use a virtual assistant because I hate doing this. I'm interested in numbers, not in words. So, Daisy, this way, come on, let's go back the other way. Come on, Daisy. I use a virtual assistant to do things like contact my clients, get the IDs, go onto the company's house website and check, when somebody's renewed annually, are they still showing as a financial advisor on the sites, or are they still, a plumber that advertises online and that kind of thing. And I get her to check that for me, because I want to do the money, the bookkeeping and teaching bookkeepers. I don't want to be doing any of that kind of thing. So yeah, that's Alison from Silicon Bullet. That was a bit of a tip for if you're an independent bookkeeper and what you should do for money laundering. I'm just going to take Daisy off the lead now because I'm finishing the video and there's nobody about, so she can run around free. And I will sign off. Go to blog.siliconbullet.com and there's a little magnifying glass in the top right hand corner and you can search for anything on there, because I've got a lot of blogs now, so only the latest ones will appear on the front page. And just put the keyword of what you're looking for: VAT, payroll, HMRC. Type in the word business if you want to look for all my posts about setting up yourself as a bookkeeping business. Subscribe to this channel where I do lots of hints and tips. Look for me on LinkedIn, Alison Mead at Silicon Bullet. And if you are an independent bookkeeper working on your own, if you've got this far in the video, well done. I do now have a monthly online meetup. I do it through Teams. I call it Bookkeeping Brunch, where the independent bookkeepers that I've met and come across, we basically meet once a month. You might be able to bring a query to the table if you're stuck on anything, or it might just be that you're sat as a bookkeeper working all on your own at home and you just want to know that, you know, there's other people out there doing the same as you, and it's become a nice little social environment. And I also have a Better Bookkeeping Support Facebook page where we also gather on there, so if anyone's got any queries, questions, they've had a problem, then they can ask on there as well. So yeah, that's it. That's Alison from Silicon Bullet in the very noisy, cheepy chirpy, right by the M1, Northamptonshire Forest of Southsea Forest. I obviously was in a talking mood today. Speak to you soon. Bye.